How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tear Talk. Guys, we're going to be talking about change. Corrections is going through changes. But as you talk to people, I don't think they're afraid of the change. I think they're concerned about managing the transition of that change. So again, change is more the outcome. It's the external. Managing the transition is the psychological. And I've been reading a great book on that called Managing Transitions, Making the Most of Change. It's by William Bridges. And it's a phenomenal read. It talks about 3 steps related to a transition. It goes from ending, so losing and letting go, to the neutral zone where it's the most chaotic because you're not fully away from letting go, but yet you haven't fully embraced the new beginning. And then, of course, there's the new beginning. It's going to be a great dialogue. I'm going to have Russ Hamilton share in because, as we know, as I said, corrections is going through some tremendous changes. So as management or as leadership, these are things you can recognize to help get people moving forward into that acceptance. Because, again, guys, that's the key. We want people to accept where we are headed, but it has to come to a level of understanding. Now, guys, if you haven't, I'd like you to check out my sponsors. Let me get those up and running. So first, we have American Military University. If you guys get a chance, if you're looking to get higher education, get a degree, please check out American Military University. They're very supportive of what we do in corrections. And again, very supportive of what we do here on Tear Talk. So again, American Military University. We also have my book, Inmate Manipulation Decoded. That is available on the market. It's a link to that is in the description. That book does very well. It's a very good selling book. It's used in training all across the country. My other book, Lessons Learned, has now been picked up by another publishing company called 360 Blue Media. Let me just make sure I get the name of that right, guys. Bear with me. I don't want to mess that up. It's a big company that publishes a lot of legal books. They saw the potential in what I had to offer with this book, and it's called, the name of the company is Blue 360 Media. That's the company. So you guys get a chance, please check out their website, Blue 360 Media. My book is going through their publisher now, and they're going to kind of fix it up a little bit, maybe change the title, and then it'll be released through their markets. But if you guys want to check out what other books that they offer, please check out Blue 360 Media. And again, guys, we also have our leadership training. That's doing pretty well. If you guys are interested, it's $75. That's part 1. It's a webinar on demand, so just tell me when you need it, and I will go ahead and send you the link. And the email is right there. The email is, let's see, where is it? nassahs22@gmail.com, and that's where you can get more information. And guys, it's good training, guys. If you get a chance, please check it out. All right, let me get Russ on. Let me just close that off. What's up, Russ? Wait.
Hey there, Anthony.
You got me nervous.
I'm trying to play with some settings and stuff, having a few little technical glitches here.
We all have those technical glitches. Hey, Russ, I know it's a little early for you. We were going to do a show last night, but couldn't get the kids to bed late, and I tried to do a show without the kids running around upstairs. Hey, Russ, you have anything you'd like to introduce? I'm sorry, you'd like to introduce yourself to our audience?
Of course, my name's Russ Hamilton. I'm a former and retired sergeant from California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. Began my career way back in the 80s, back at San Quentin State Prison. Went on to transfer and promote, and later on, I retired. After that, I became a senior juvenile correctional officer for a local brand new facility that they built in my home county. And then I retired again from that, and I went on once again to do a job which I love now, which is working as a jail case manager for a private company where we do reentry and rehabilitation work for both a local county jail and a local probation department.
Yeah. So Russ will definitely be a good person to have in this dialogue because Russ has also gone through a bit of a transition. So have I. I mean, now I'm also working at a treatment center, where prior to that, I've worked at maximum security facilities. Now I'm working at a treatment center. And Russ also kind of having the same road, sort of, to some extent. Russ now works for an organization that deals with rehabilitation. So, I mean, we kind of understand a little bit of this dialogue. So actually, this is pretty good to have Russ on today. Me and Russ kind of going through the same transitions to some extent. Hey, Russ, real quick, how good is Keepers of Chaos on Facebook?
Keepers of Chaos, we're hoping to break that 6,000 mark here pretty quick. Keepers of Chaos, as you well know, is a place for correctional officers to get together and be supported with regards to their profession and to the challenges that face us each day. It really is professionally oriented. It's not a joke site. It's not just a hangout site. It's about actually promulgating and taking the profession forward and trying to help people, because it is such a difficult correction. My goal, my mission in life, as it is to help correctional staff be able to not have it quite so rough as perhaps some of us had back in the day.
Which we do, and we try to do it at all levels. Now, this dialogue is pretty much, it is a leadership dialogue, but I think it's great for those on the front line also pay attention to this dialogue, because it will help them be more receptive and maybe even help their leaders create what needs to be created in order for transition to happen. Now, granted, there is a difference between change and transition. We briefly went over that at the very beginning, but just to remind you before we go into the dialogue, change is the outcome. Change is where we are headed. That's the final result. That's where we are going to be. Transition is the psychological part of it all. You know, what is it as staff that we have to let go of, that we have to lose in order for us to move forward? And then there's that part in the middle where they call it the neutral zone, where it's kind of everything's ambiguous, where, we're caught in the middle of, we haven't fully let go of the old, but we still haven't embraced the new. And then eventually it will be the new. It will be the beginning of something great. And how do you manage your staff through that? So, Russ, real quick, in corrections, or just even in general, I have a feeling that when people try to help their staff go through change, they don't really deal with the psychological part of the transition. They just deal with pushing things over to that final outcome. Would you agree with that, Russ?
Yeah, there's a lot of times, I think, where as these transitions take place, as we move from one model to the next, as things actually start to, impact that front line, I think there's a lot of people down there that line said, hey, wait a minute, have we been consulted? Have we been talked to about this? Are you guys paying attention to what our issues are, especially with regards to safety and security? You can't just say, hey, this sounds like a great new idea, and implement it and leave the people that are responsible for actual lives, out of the loop. And we did a show on this a while back. We talked about, are we being heard? Well, more than just are we being heard, I think it's whether or not are we being consulted, because we have the answers to issues that are going to come up. And if we feel down there on the bottom line in the trenches that our safety is being jeopardized for some alleged noble idea that we have not been consulted about, it can make for a really hostile work environment, and people are going to be that much more entrenched in not changing.
Yeah, and it's kind of great what you're saying, Russ, because as management, as we suggest this new idea of where corrections is heading, it is a tough, the pressures from the outside have forced us into a direction in which there is no turning back from, guys. The old way of management inmate behavior has changed, and there is no way of turning back to the systems that we once had in place. But with that said, when we were navigating ourselves through these transitions, management should have been certain in which what we're letting go of. I think, like Russ said, we have core values, safety and security, and somewhere along the line, that should have been convinced or I'm sorry, that should have been stated to individuals that these are the things that we're willing to head, but these are the things we're not willing to let go of. And I think at some point, as we start to balance this transition, like Russ said, the more you bring people to the table, the more that they're able to consult in regards to the people that do the job every day, saying, yeah, I think this is possible, but we're going to have to try to do it these ways. Then it helps us navigate that change. But I truly believe in what Russ said at first, where management has to step up when they go to implement this change. Management has to step up in regards to the transition and let people know these are the things that we're letting go of. These are the things that we could be losing, and be prepared for that difficult dialogue, but also to ensure people that we are not losing these things. We're not losing our sense of being. And what I mean by that is corrections will never be successful without the core values of safety and security. And I think somewhere along the line, as we move into this next direction, people have to realize that is the foundation for any of this change to happen. Safety and security is the core value that can never be taken away from whatever corrections is trying to do, especially in the effort to rehabilitate and prepare people for reentry. But I think that somewhere along the line, when management was trying to jump and make this very outcome-driven change, they didn't allow people in the process to be introduced to how what we've done in the past still remains strong in our efforts to connect to that and move it forward. So my biggest concern, Russ, is that you do find some facilities are able to navigate through it, because I think at some point there's management and frontline on the same page of what they're willing to sacrifice and what they're not willing to sacrifice. And then you start to see with that shared partnership and that belief, they become very successful. They find a way to balance the needs of safety and security in their effort to prepare these inmates to rehabilitate and reentry. But the sad thing that also happens, you have other facilities that fail because they don't know how to manage that transition of what are we letting go, what are we losing, and then they don't know how to communicate that to their people. So then now, instead of having that shared partnership, because the front line's like, well, no one's told us what's happening, no one told us what we got to let go, no one told us what we're losing, so they just assume the worst, and then what happens is they become resistant to moving forward. Would you agree with that, Russ?
Yeah, that's the thing is that the people that you really rely on the most to not only implement the changes, but to provide for that root layer of safety and security. We're dealing with really super hardened criminals out there, and people sometimes at the top they lose sight of that because they're not down there in the trenches. They're not the ones fighting the fights. And so, if we feel disenfranchised from the process, we want to put the brakes on. And our natural inclination then is just to slow everything down. We want to be, resistant toward those things that they're bringing on in a new fashion, because we don't know potentially what dangers might lurk in that. And it's really kind of emphasized in the training, or I should say in the lack of training, with regards to what that mission is and how we're going to continue to accomplish it. So one of the things that I would say, if you're out there and you're one of the ones responsible for bringing these things on board, the people that you have to train and the people that you have to get input from the most are those people down at that root level, because otherwise it's going to fall apart and it's going to be made to fail. I myself, I don't have any problem or resistance towards trying to do these rehabilitative programs. But at the same time, you can't just, expect that everyone is going to be able to bring something on board with respect to that if they feel that their livelihood is being impacted or that their safety is going to be, placed in jeopardy.
I also want to add your identity. As we go through this change, there's a lot of I just unplugged my mic. Sorry, I'm back. There's a lot of people that may feel that the identity gets lost if the facility is totally gearing 100% towards rehabilitation. Now, all of a sudden, you have a big portion of this profession that says, well, what the hell am I? So every
So
time
let's.
oh, go ahead.
I was going to say let's switch that term from identity to prescribed role.
Which does
My
connect.
prescribed role was always to be that person in there making impact plays, finding the drugs, finding the phones, stopping the riots, stopping the stabbings. All of those things are still going to have to be attended to. We don't just simply say, "Hey, guess what? Now we're gonna ignore safety and security. We're gonna ignore riots. We're gonna ignore, weapons out there on the yard. So what if they get a cell phone in? So what if they're doing dope? Well, wait a second. All of those things are antithetical towards that rehabilitation
Yeah.
model. So you're going to need the people that have expertise in doing those things, and those people, that is their prescribed role. That is what they are used to. Are they willing to take on new challenges? Well, I hope they are, because that's the only way we're going to really get that seat at the table, so to speak, to be able to have that input. But man, don't carve out the people that are going to be able to make this a success. Because if you don't have those people on board, or if you do this in a haphazard fashion, where they can't be the ones that are, cycling those inmates into those programs and getting that movement done, why have any rehabilitation at all? Why change at all if you can't actually do the logistics of the program?
Yeah, I agree. I like what you equated it to prescribed role, because it is. I think there are some people that, let's say on the custody side, where they feel a little lost when these changes occur, because they're thinking like, well, what am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do? And when you look at that question a little bit deeper, these are probably people that have really identified with that purpose, playing that prescribed role. And I think as management, as you start to shift, as you start to transition into this other heightened purpose of rehabilitation and reentry, I think you have to go back and make sure that the people that were there from the beginning, those custody professionals, also know that that role is very important, is still important, and it doesn't get lost in the process. I think that's been a very big concern. I think that even from the pressure from the outside looking in, they focused all their money on rehabilitation, reentry, all the resources are going to that way. And then you get the other side, who really is what's needed to navigate this. I mean, you can't do any of this without safety and security. But then they're thinking like, what about us? So all they do is they see this change going one way, they feel forgotten. And then the problem is, as you start to move forward, the first thing they're worried about is, what do I do in this? I feel like I'm letting go of everything now and beginning something totally new, which I think when it comes to change and transition, management does it. The best way to do it is to make sure people are evolving, not transforming, if that makes any sense. Like, I think it's guys, what you have done is helped us get to this point. So that's, to me, evolve and embraces that level of transition. Because again, my biggest concern's always been is, in the process, am I losing who I am? Because a lot of us do, we relate to the work we do. Like Russ said, Russ is known to be that guy, get those searches, and serve the facility in a way that makes the facility as safe as possible for the people that work there, and also for the public on the outside that don't want these individuals to get out, at least not before they're ready. So with that said, all of a sudden, we put all our focus on this rehabilitation and reentry, and then you get Russ, who could use a little assistance, but Russ is forgotten now. It's not about that, Russ. It's about this. And then Russ is sitting there like, well, here I am. I had a purpose. I connected to the purpose. Now you're making these changes without even consulting me. And I know I could be a big part of it. I know I can help. I know I can help us make us successful. But now it's just 100% this way. And now what is it left for me to do? I mean, that's the key. And I think the concern with that, Russ, is especially for someone like yourself who believes so much in what they do, it holds on to that purpose for so long, and then all of a sudden you're going this one direction, and whatever, it's new, it's challenging and a little bit ambiguous, and management doesn't help you get connected, like basically saying, hey, Russ, you're not forgotten, you are important, all the stuff that you have done will continue to be needed. It's just they don't take that psychological effect. They just want to know, well, how come you're not there yet? What do you mean? Well, how come you haven't accepted where we're headed? Do you know what that means for me to fully accept that? That means I fully have to let go of everything I was. And I disagree with that. You haven't consulted me on anything. So that, for me, that change is 100% in a whole opposite direction of where I used to be. And you haven't even helped me manage that. You haven't even got me involved. Russ said it great. I got to repeat Russ said. Russ said consulting. You know what consulting's a big part of? And I think Russ would agree. Consulting's a big part of helping the individual transition into the role by bringing some level of investment from them, to help them move it along as well. Would you agree with that, Russ?
I would, and but I also, I think that those people that are, pushing this aspect of it, need to be open to what we can teach out there, what we can bring to the table with regards to that. I think that we're multifaceted enough. We don't have to focus only on safety and security. We can work around some of those rough edges on some of these people without stepping outside what our prescribed role should be, and bring a lot more to the table. And I think more than that, I think we have a lot, not just to teach the inmates, but I think that we have a lot that we can, teach those management and those administrative levels, if they would just tap into us. I've had situations where I had, teachers and everything else ignore what my people, the officers that I had to supervise, and myself, just because they viewed themselves as being superior in that area, whereas we can teach them how to write a report, how to make that disciplinary stick, how to do all of these different things to actually influence and facilitate rehabilitation and reentry work, instead of just being cut out of the loop, because some people tend to have an elitist view of what's going on.
Yeah, and from a distance. you know
Yes.
and it's funny when they talk about change. They say change can be so difficult, especially if you're not managing the transitions, that actually the individuals that are going through it deal with these 5 steps: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. That's the same steps that you take when you deal with a death. If you get extremely bad news, I mean, think about that. First, you deny it's happening. Oh, this ain't going to happen. This will never work. Then you get angry because then you start to see it moving. It's like, damn, what the hell? I guess they are going to do it. Well, no one even took a chance to talk to me. Then you try to bargain like, hey, this isn't how, maybe we could do it this way, just try to meet in the middle. Then, hey, it's happening. Damn, there's nothing I can do. It's out of my control. And then finally they accept it. As a manager or as a supervisor, as a good leader, or just whatever, the head of the department, you got to get your people through all these phases, from denial to anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. You have to help them transition through that. You can't just sit there and expect them to get to the other end without going through those 5 things that we just mentioned. Would you agree with that, Russ? I mean, I've dealt with that. I literally dealt with that with some of the changes we have.
Yeah, we deal with all those things, and it's hard at times. The typical correctional officer profile, as it were, sometimes isn't amenable toward that change. We have to work to do what we can to bring those people along, like I said before about the training and so forth. And there's something to be said for for being obstinate and resistant, but not in that part of the setting, right? There's things that we view as values for the people that I associate with, that maybe don't transfer well into what this new set of parameters that we're going to introduce to corrections is. But that can be leveraged into a good thing by making sure that those people are there because there are going to be potentially catastrophic failures that are going to need to be met with that stern mindset. I'm not saying that everything is going to fail all the time, but when we have these inmates that are just really truly incorrigible criminals, there's some of them that you might be able to reach. There's probably a larger percentage of them that you're not going to reach, and there's probably a small percentage of them that actually have the potential and the internal political authority to destroy what you've going on. So you really have to be careful and cognizant, and there's nobody better prepared to do that than your typical line level officer.
Yep. And guys, I'll be honest with you. That bargaining part is a good part for the supervisors to really start listening to those individuals, because I think the bargaining part is what helps people deal with that fourth part, which is depression. Yeah, I think that if there's a level of investment being done with during that bargaining part, then the depression or the loss may not be as bad. You start going right to the acceptance. I think that's a good jump. I think that, like Russ said, you get the people involved and we start to try to figure out how this thing can be managed. Then it brings you up to the fact that, hey, we're all invested. And that kind of brings us to this next part, is the neutral zone. The neutral zone is where you're stuck in the middle. This is where you're kind of leaving the old, but kind of still a little bit to it. But then you're not really connected to the new. This is the part where it's actually the most ambiguous, but it's also the most innovative, because you're not holding on to the old ways. You're moving into something new. So having said that, this kind of allows for a little bit of freedom to discover what are the best routes to take. And this is a great moment in growth for any agency, is when they're at that middle road here. The neutral zone is where we all get together and we work at things from scratch to try to get ourselves to the other end of whatever this change is trying to accomplish. And guys, even in positive change that does have a good outcome, there still are losses. And the biggest thing that you want to be able, again, to still kind of navigate through when you're in the neutral zone is you're going to want to navigate people through the losses that they've gone through, because at this point they're really starting to let go of that. That's the key of what they've lost. But you also want to start trying to get their investment so they can embrace in something new. And like Russ said and I said, there's no way that can be done if our staff and the front line don't feel invested in what it is that's being done. But with that said, and the reason why I want front line to listen to this too, is you have to realize when we're moving forward and when there's no turning back. Because at the end of the day, when management, this is just from a management perspective, when we're at this neutral zone and we're burning ships, we're moving forward. I mean, this is what it is. And I've been trying to get your perspective, and you don't want to give it. You just want to remain resistant when everything else is moving forward. At that point, be wary, because you're going to get left behind. Because we've gotten to that point now where we're trying to navigate through the change. You're still resistant to be resistant, and then you got other people that are like, okay, we could do it this way. We're starting to embrace the new, because that neutral zone, you don't want to be going backwards. We've gotten to that point where we understand what we're losing. Now it's just dealing with what we're losing, but we understand what we're losing. We understand what we're letting go, but we got to start going this way. So when you start to make those efforts to move forward, you got to kind of tell the people that are still holding on. It's like, hey, listen, come with me now. We're doing this together. Let's do this together. But if you keep on pulling me this way, for the sake of the change and for the sake of the people that have already been invested, that I've been working with, you're going to be left behind, because that neutral zone now is literally about fully letting this go and then embracing what's ahead. And again, one more thing about this, guys, is part of this neutral zone is where we become the most innovative, which means this is when we're having the table, we're having discussions at the table, and we're embracing every effort to move forward in a direction that we feel aligns with everyone's needs. And that's where it says here is communication is truly important at this phase. What's your thought of this, Russ? Because this is I think where most of us are stuck right now, in the neutral zone, the not letting go and then not being able to embrace what's ahead in some level of balance.
The neutral zone is just a way for us to have to adapt and bring those new skill sets to bear. It's not an abandonment of the old skill sets. No one should be afraid that they're going to suddenly be, obviated out of existence. The need for contraband interdiction, riot suppression, all of those things is actually going to be magnified because one of the things that we're going to be reliant on is being able to make it a safer space for people to actually engage. And by people, I mean the inmates directly, to engage in the reentry and rehabilitation phases of these things. We're going to have to be actually much more efficient gardeners in pulling the weeds out and making that possible, because that's the only way this thing is going to work.
Hey Russ, I love what you just said. So hold on. So I don't want to I don't want to go past what you just said about the gardener. I think that's actually a very, very good I don't want to say metaphor of what it is that I'm trying to address. Because take a look at this. If we are, because you're right, we're evolving into it, but there are certain things that we're letting go of, right? So now if we just grew up, if we're growing into this gardener perspective, I really love this, right? What is it that we are letting go of to embrace that gardener perspective?
Yeah, that's why I chose that particular metaphor or analogy rather, is just that there's going to be a need to be able to put those inmates on the path that want it, and there's going to be a lot of them. They're going to be resistive. What happens to those inmates that start in some shape, manner, or form to be losing the influence that they have? Those shot callers, those guys that live for the chance to be able to try and move up the chain of those STGs. Do you think that they're going to go quietly, or are they going to make things worse? Well, they are going to make things worse. I've seen guys all the time try and sabotage the efforts of staff and of these reentry and rehabilitation phases, because they don't want people not to want to do the dope. And more than that, they don't want potential people out there that are going to rat them out for them bringing dope to the yard. Remember that that dope is the lifeblood of the STG groups, because without that, they have no money. And if they have no money, their influence is almost destroyed. So what is it that we're doing? What is it that we're trying to do? We're trying to destroy the STGs, right? We're trying to rock them back on their feet so that they have less of a clutch of what's going on each individual unit, so that some of these other inmates can potentially move forward and change their lives and get a divorce from the criminal justice system.
Well, let me ask you a question about that real quick. So I love this. So I think that for the correctional officer side, and this is good because this is a growth in who we are and who we've become. I don't think we're considered just any more knuckle draggers that are solely enforcers. I like the fact that it's a blended title now of, oh, yes, we could play that role and don't test us because we will. But we're being introduced to another role that is, I don't want to say it's a softer term, because I know some people may see that way, but it does play into safety and security. It's a blended role where back in the day we could quickly enforce the rules, zero tolerance, and we got that. But now that times are shifting and there's more of, I don't want to say it's a negotiation of the rules, because again, when there's a time and place, the rules are the rules. It's emergent. I ain't negotiating shit. But if there's a moment where you can try to work with the individual, again, some level of discretion, that officer makes the decision, then there becomes the blended role of you providing direction. I really love the gardener term. So I think that what's being let go of, and bear with me, I think what's being let go of, what people think are being let go of, is the solo identity of an officer being the enforcer. And that's all you do. And I think that what happened is as we're moving forward, people that are concerned that they're losing that and not seeing that it's blending in with this other title of gardener. I really love that. I'm going to use that. they automatically don't, they see it as extremes. They don't see it as a blend. Like, if I'm a gardener, then I'm no way this. And it's like, I don't think that's what's happening. I think that as we're going through this neutral zone, we're trying to bring a little bit of what you are, more of a little bit of what you are, more into what we're trying to accomplish as a fair balance. I mean, would you agree with that? Was if we're trying to manage this transition, I think management right now should be doing their best to try to let staff know, especially correctional staff. It's the prisoners. The correctional officers, especially the correctional officers. They need to let the correctional officers know that we're pushing you into a blended function that never minimizes that enforcement side when needed. Because I even have one of my recent things in this book I'm writing, again, is not overusing your sense of authority or your level of authority, right? So I think we're not telling people as we manage them through the transition that it's a blended function, but again, never minimizing the foundation of how important it is to maintain that enforcement when needed.
Yeah, so there's basically three things that we do as correctional officers, sergeants, lieutenants, what have you, and that's we provide for the safety of the public, we provide for the safety of staff, and we provide for the safety of inmates, and that's all we do. But there are different levels to that. There is a strategic level and there is a tactical level. And what we've dealt with for the most part in our careers is we've dealt with things at the tactical level. We're the ones that go in, we intercept the dope, we put down the riots, we do all of those very high level things, but it's at a tactical level. When we start talking about how are we going to impact the safety of the public from a strategic level, one of the things, or a couple of the things that enter in there, is this idea about reentry and rehabilitation. Well, we protect the public by doing that from a standpoint of getting these guys to be divested of what they've experienced in the past, and being so entrenched and involved in the criminal justice system, right? So, from that perspective, being strategic and being big picture thinking, we've now reduced the load, hopefully, of what's going on with the criminals. Now, is that a perfect panacea of things? Obviously not. I think that one of the things that's gotten bad with regard to it recently is there's a lack of accountability at the bottom, and especially from the street level side of things. Now, whether that's ever going to come back or not, we may never know, but it doesn't obviate the need that we have to try and rehabilitate individuals and put them on a path where they're no longer negatively impacting public safety. If they're staying out there on the street and they're doing what's right, they're certainly not negatively impacting our safety.
Right.
And certainly, if they're staying out there on the street and they're doing what they're supposed to do, they're not negatively impacting the general population safety. So those are the two aspects. Like I say, three things: public safety, staff safety, and inmate safety, but from two different perspectives: the tactical and the strategic. So for whatever that's worth, that's the way that I look at it. And we're just now adding another dimension of that strategic view of things to the tool belt that the correctional officer needs.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, guys, as we manage the neutral zone, it's for at least correctional officers. Just to reiterate, we're dropping the solo identity. That's what we're losing, but it's still a blended function. So I don't want people to think that you're losing that identity. So management, leadership, please make sure your front line is aware that at no point ever are we losing that identity of being that enforcer when needed. But we're also being taught, like Russ said, other skills that break us away just from that solo identity, which we all should want to embrace because there's a level of growth in that. I mean, we can't play the extreme every day. It winds up for a very exhausting career. So there are some skills here that may actually help us mentally. And the last part of this all is, remember, change has an ending. At the very beginning, it starts with an ending, believe it or not. Then it goes into the neutral zone. And then after it goes into the neutral zone, it goes into the new beginning. And this is where we're now moving forward. This is it now. I mean, again, you know, in the neutral zone, we're kind of battling. We have fully let go of what was, and now we are where we need to be. And this is a matter of leadership. One, being consistent in what it is that they're looking to accomplish, which means even in how they reward behavior, they have to make sure that they reward the behavior that's consistent to where the change is or where they want the change to be. Then you want to try to get quick successes because that builds on one credibility. You know, so I always look for small victories all the time. Small victories matter. Any small victory helps us get closer and closer. But the big thing about that is those quick successes, those small victories, they add to credibility. They add to credibility of what's going on. So never minimize a quick success or a small victory, because again, we're going to fail along the way. So we need to build on the credibility of that quick successes. And also we have to symbolize the new identity. So whatever we could to showcase where we're at. I mean, I know using social media could be a big thing. You know, some people will even wear shirts, but once we've embraced this message of where corrections is headed, we have to symbolize it. We have to show it. We have to stand tall. We have to stand proud. I mean, I like the One Voice initiative that used to happen. I don't know if they're still actively involved. I got to follow up with them, but basically they just took the voice of all correctional staff and they kind of did things together where people from the rehabilitative side helped out those from safety and security, and safety and security helped out those from rehabilitative side, because they knew that we needed each other, because like Russ said before, they knew the big picture. I think that's also part of the change that we're going through, is that have we elevated people up to see the big picture? No, we've never done that before. Why aren't we doing that? So for management, there's a change for you too. The change for you is be transparent. You know, let the people know what it is that you're trying to accomplish, so they're not ambiguous. So if you see the big picture, they see where they fit in and they know what they have to do to make it happen. So again, for management, you got to manage, be more transparent and less secretive. Not everything has to be a secret. You know, we need to let our people know why we're doing certain things and where they fit in the bigger picture. And then, of course, celebrate the success. If we find we've gotten to a point where we really are moving forward and the momentum is where it needs to be to secure that outcome, then hell yes, you go out there and you blast that success. That's a major victory. It doesn't mean it's over. I never once said that once you celebrate the success, it's over. You're always going to be striving. They're mile markers. That's all they are. They're mile markers in the right direction. But man, if you could get on one of those mile markers or those milestones and celebrate the shit out of it, again, the bigger side of it all, that's a great accomplishment. And with all parties could sit together and say, yo, we were a part of that. We got us from point A to B, but the big part, again, is managing the transition. Russ, anything you want to say on those 4 points? Being consistent, ensuring quick successes, symbolizing the new identity, and celebrate the success?
The thing that I would say is this, maybe not specific to those, but, you know, this is going to require people to, you know, to throw their hat in. It's going to, I don't mean that in the bad way. I mean to go in there with everything that they've got. You can't sit back and just think that you're going to, you know, kind of passively sabotage things and think that things are going to get better. This is going to, in order for things to get better at this point in corrections, we're going to have a big success, not just those little successes, but bigger successes. Do I think it's doable? I don't know for sure. What I can tell you is that I've personally met with some successes that I did not expect when I got into the rehabilitation game. I'll tell you, you know, by every measurement that there is, I am not in this to do good. I'm in this to support my community, and I'm in it to support, you know, the sheriff's department and the jail and the probation department that I work hand in hand with, because I want them to meet success. For me, it's not about individual successes with regards to the inmates and the probationers that I interact with. I want it at that community level because I do believe it makes my community a better place. I do believe that it makes things safer here. I've seen what's already happened in California specifically. They got soft on crime. We don't have we have a lot of carrots, but we don't have very many sticks, and so the going is very difficult from the probation side of things and from the jail side of things, and what I do specifically. But I think that if we all get in there and instead of hanging back, throwing our weight in, throwing our weight against this thing, trying to, move the chains down the field, as it were, I think we do stand a better shot at doing those three things I mentioned. Once again, the public safety, staff safety, and the safety of the inmates themselves, because that counts for a lot. Because if they feel safe within that environment that they're in, a lot of them actually do wake up and start to buy in to the whole reentry thing, to the whole rehabilitation thing.
Yeah, guys, remember, this is an intentional effort on both parts. It's an intentional effort from management to help staff manage the transition, of course, and play their role. As I said before, you're going through change too, that level of transparency, but also frontline, be intentional with understanding where it's going, grow yourself, and then work with management. Again, management, when it comes to making changes, it's tough. We know we're going to have people that resist, but we need people to buy in, because we need that 25% to convince the 50% that are on the fence. So again, it is a partnership, but it's an intentional effort on both ends. Hey, Russ, you have anything you'd like to say in closing?
Not too much. Just make sure if you're watching this, if you are a corrections professional, come on over to Keepers of Chaos. We carry all of the stuff that's done on Tier Talk, and we post that and a lot more. There's a lot of things that you can do and see and experience and get a hold of in Keepers of Chaos that's going to make your job safer. It's going to make your job more pleasurable. And I think that, corrections being as hard as it is, can afford to not quite be that hard when you have people that are willing to step in there and help you with the experiences that you're having based on the experiences that they've had long ago.
Yeah, guys, and it's great because now all you need is the right question to ask, because we have the people that can answer it. I mean, that's pretty awesome, especially on Keepers of Chaos, KAOS. Now, guys, if you get a chance, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Stay safe.